Welcome to the Mentor Talk. Today, our guest is Jonas Rasmussen, and I first met him on Instagram, and I was just really inspired by the things he's posting as the choir conductor. Some very innovative ideas in the choir, so we're going to have a Mentor Talk today. Welcome, Jonas.
Thank you very, very much. Very excited to be here.
Excellent. All the way from Denmark.
Yes, it's getting a little late over here, but today marked the day when the days are longer than the nights. So that's special for us. The light is coming back.
Excellent. It's always a relief this time of year.
Yeah, it really is.
So I'll definitely ask you a lot about your own creative projects and your own creative mentorship, but I thought it might be fun to start by asking about your education and what inspired you growing up to learn about music, or who inspired you to learn.
Yeah, for sure. So I started out as a kid playing the piano, and I quickly became quite ambitious with the piano, and for many years I had the dream about becoming a concert pianist. So in my teens, I went all over Europe to compete in these piano competitions. It was quite intense. And at some point around 18, I decided that that kind of life was not for me. Being stuck in a rehearsal room many, many hours a day was really taking a toll on my mental health. And I think I just realized I could never be as good as I wanted to be. So I completely dropped the piano, but along the way, I had joined a choir. So I stayed in choir, but that was the only musical thing I did throughout high school. So when I graduated from high school, I was about to, choose my major. What was it going to be? I wanted to go into journalism. I wanted to go into a lot of stuff, philosophy, a lot of different things. But eventually, I decided that music was the thing that I really needed to do. So I pursued an opportunity to become a conductor for a senior choir around my home city. And it was so fun because I had played so much piano. I was very confident in my musical abilities. But the thing about standing in front of a group of people and telling them what to do, it's a completely new role to take, the role of the leader. And all these people could be my grandparents. I was 19 at the time. So at the very first rehearsal, I went up and I warmed up the choir, and I was so incredibly nervous. So after the warm up, I fainted. I just
Wow.
fell flat on the floor, and people, chaos was in the room, and I was rushed to the emergency room. And of course, there was nothing wrong with me. I was just being nervous. But since then, it has. I've been more confident in my leadership skills and standing in front of a group of people and telling them what to do. But it's been a real journey from that first ever rehearsal. Yeah, and then I went to school in Stockholm in Sweden, where I did my bachelor's degree in choral conducting. I then went on to Cambridge to do my master's, and then I went back to Aarhus, where I am now, and started working. And so here I am now, and I conduct two choirs, a youth choir and an adult choir, and I teach choral conducting at the Royal Academy of Music here. So that's my story in short form.
Excellent. And those are choirs, are they at a school that you teach? Or
No, so both of my choirs are actually not connected to any institutions, which is, I think, kind of special for Danish choirs. We have a lot of choirs that are self-governed in that sense that they own themselves. And so they have their own board, and everybody in the choir also takes on an organizational responsibility. So we have committees for everything. But that also means we always have to apply for external funding to make things happen, and we have to charge for our concerts and so on. So it's a small organization or a small company that we are trying to run.
Oh, okay. The two together are in the same kind of
No,
organization.
they're separate actually.
Oh. So do the children somewhat take leadership role in the organization too?
They do. So they're not exactly children. We have in the youth choir we are from 15 to 25.
Oh,
But there are no real adults involved, so they do all the work. I'm the only one in the organization being paid, but they have made the board. They are selling concerts. They are doing the fundraising. They are deciding what to wear. They are doing all the social media. They're doing all the stuff around the choir that, yeah, that you have to do if you're involved with the choir.
that's so inspiring. And in addition to conducting these choirs, are you also, I think, teaching as a conductor as well?
Yeah, so I teach choral conducting at the Royal Academy of Music, and we do have a master's program here, where it's like we have one or two conductors per year, but then we also have a more broad music leadership degree from a bachelor's degree. And on that course, we have maybe 5 to 10 people every year. And then along with that, we have the organists or the church musicians who also encounters choral conducting in their degree. So I get to teach a lot of different kinds of musicians. Some organists, some play other instruments, and some sing. And very few have choral conducting as their main subject.
Ah, I see. Okay, well, I definitely like to ask about some of your innovative ideas and how you work on your ideas because the video that caught my attention at first was the one where you are using your hand to do all kinds of unexpected things, and there was no real direction. It was only to go with it. What would you think of it as a sound? And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
this is so innovative. It's so interesting, and I wonder what kind of possessed you to go in that direction and innovate that.
First of all, I do so many silly things with my choirs, and I'm always eager to explore fun ideas. And sometimes we do stuff that really works and that resonates with people, like the thing you saw on Instagram. And sometimes we experiment and it goes completely flat. And I just say to my choir, yeah, let's never do that again. And then we move on. But this particular exercise is something that I keep coming back to because I think it's so interesting that we as humans can agree on what sounds to make just from observing a specific motion or a specific pattern. And basically, it's what we try to do as conductors all the time, that we try to show something with our hands, with our body, with our face that can communicate a certain emotion or a certain movement or something that we want to get across. And so I just thought, what would happen if we don't do our normal beat patterns as conductors? But if we just make like a certain, we have a starting pitch, and then I just show random stuff. And it could be a hand turning the other way around. That could do, I mean, and the funny thing about this video is that this group of people will quickly adjust and agree on a certain sound, but that might be completely different in another group. So it's also kind of a hive mind exercise that you have to listen out for the people that you're surrounded by and see where does the group take you, and how can the group agree on a specific thing. So the thing with the wobbling fingers, I think, was really funny because almost instantly people began to and I mean, it's the fun way to visualize music. And I think I'm about to explore many other things that you could do with this system. And I'm also eager to try to bring it to people that are not necessarily in the same choir to see if they also agree that this is or if they have a different take on it. And so it comes down to the human psychology and the hive mind and to being an ensemble together. And that's basically what the this specific exercise is for, to synchronize that feeling of being together.
That's so cool. And did you ever have any kind of mentor or teacher that was in this kind of experimental direction, or was that all on your own that you kind of got into that?
Not really. I mean, I've had teachers and mentors throughout my life, and I'm very, very grateful for all of them. I would say most of them has taught me a lot of discipline and a lot of craftsmanship and a lot of skill. But very few that I've met has really been um, fostering this kind of playfulness that I find so valuable in my own choirs. And I think it's something that we lack in our culture. And maybe we're a little too stiff here in Scandinavia. Maybe America is a little better at being playful. But I think there's something about the conductor role, standing in front of a group of people, and you want to. There's obviously some kind of authority being the one that is in charge. And I think playfulness and authority are maybe a little bit opposite for some people. They think that if they're being silly now, or if they're being too vulnerable, or if they are um, kind of exposing themselves, that they are not as skilled as the singers might think, then they might have lost their authority. I think for me, it's the complete opposite. I need to show the choir that I'm vulnerable, that I'm not perfect, that I also can make mistakes, and that I just want to experiment with them, together with them. I'm not just there to say what they have to do, but we're in this together. And I think that's what what's been working particularly well with my pedagogy or with my philosophy um, in the years in these past few years when I've developed this kind of method. But back to your question about mentors, and I know this is the mentor podcast, but this specific playfulness, I would sadly say that I cannot really come up with a specific mentor that has instilled that in me.
Well, that's pretty excellent. I'd say even that you can come upon that on your own, you know. Um, I guess when I think about it, my choir conductor was really silly. He was very wild card, very, very entertaining all the time. Um, but I never really thought about attributing that to why can maintain that sense of play in my teaching. But now I'm making the connection, you know, maybe it is connected. Um,
Nice.
but some of it I think is natural to who we are, you know,
Mm.
not wanting to take things too seriously. I remember when I learned music theory, when I got to the point where we were learning the 5 of 5 chords, that was when
Mhm.
it started to lose me. I was like, why are we trying to say we're borrowing from another key? Like, why are we starting to analyze so deeply rather than like feel the emotion of the music, feel the melody of the music, and go deeper into those experiences? It's stopped losing its like utility for me at that point. I don't know if you have any interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, everything has its own time, right? Sometimes you need the analytical mindset, and you need to be able to describe things in detail and in academia. And sometimes you, as you said, you need to feel what it feels like to have a 5/5. And I wouldn't say any of those are wrong. I would, for my students, I would expect them to know what a 5/5 is, but I would also expect them to be able to identify it by ear, or and I would probably also ask them to, yeah, to describe, well, how does it feel to kind of jump ship on a key and then come back? And yeah, it's interesting that we always think about this academic music theory being the opposite of how we feel or all the emotion. I think one can fuel the other. And I really don't think the music theory has any value if we don't connect it to the other. But I also think that if we're just feelers, if we are just feeling the music, um, we also lose some kind of really cool um, nerdiness or craftsmanship
Mm.
that we can enjoy, and the feeling of mastery when we really get down in the nitty gritty parts and we understand the music also from a theoretical perspective. I enjoy that, and I enjoy seeing my students dig into that and really see some, oh, but and then they can see the kind of patterns that, oh, this is the same thing as in this other piece. Now this makes sense, and
Mm.
I really think they fueled each other.
I like that. Yeah, it reminds me of when a musician will hear like the ding of the laundry or something, and then, oh, then they name the interval and
Yeah,
play and mastery all kind of in the same breath.
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Well, to continue then, I was thinking about how you said you work with kids and you work with adults, and I was wondering, um, if you have a preference, say, with what demographic you prefer, or maybe even do you have a preference with like what one needs versus the other, like the differences between them when it comes to the choir?
It's a great question because there's definitely a lot of differences for the different age groups. I mean, I can start with the small kids. I was a conductor at a boys' choir while I studied in Stockholm, and it was a group of 40 boys aged 10 to 11 in one group, and it was 1.5 hours, no break, small room, and it was I was 21 at that time, and it was I was way too inexperienced for that kind of job, but it taught me so much. Um, Also about the psychology of the singers. But what I wanted to say was I've always been like a playful conductor, and I've always been a little bit impulsive. So if I have an idea during rehearsal, I kind of need to follow through on that idea. And I just found out that this does not really work with kids on that age unless you're really organized about it. But the thing about me and working with children is that I get so excited and I really can't contain it. And that is infectious to a degree that I can't control them anymore. They just they run up the walls,
Absolutely.
and it gets completely out of control. So while I love the spontaneity of children, I need them in very small groups if I have to handle them. That has been my epiphany, and I've stopped working with children for that reason. So when they grow up and they become teenagers and they get into my choir, uh, I see a huge potential, and I just love people coming into the audition, and you just know that they can be brilliant musicians in a few years. You can just see that potential waiting to blossom, really. And that is maybe the best thing about my profession that I know. Just seeing that potential and know that I can help them get there. That's something that really fuels me. So also when they come in with that kind of potential, they are also very open, and they want to explore and they want to know, and there's some kind of curiosity that you cannot really there's a hunger, and I can tell them everything I know, and they will still be hungry after that. There's just some insatiable hunger that keeps on going, and that's the best, really. When people are hungry for knowledge and hungry to sing and hungry for more, that's when I really thrive. And then we get to the adults, where at some point I think we forget what it was like to be children. We forget that kind of curiosity, and we forget the sense of play to a degree. I mean, it's not from one day to another, but it's slowly and it's gradual. And at some point, we start to question things a lot more than we did when we were teenagers. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this piece? Why are we doing this exercise? How can I benefit from this? Am I using my time correctly? And it becomes a lot harder to just be together in the room, to just be be a unit as a group, and let out anything else from this room, the jobs, the conflicts, the relationships. Just be in the room, make the music together, and really make that count. I think that makes it more difficult. Oh, lower hand. That makes it that is difficult the older we get. And then when I go out to, because the oldest people in my adult choirs are still kind of young, I would say they're like 40-ish. But when I go out to to do workshops around the country and internationally, I often meet people in their 70s and even their 80s. And the wonderful thing about people going to choir in their 80s is that they're definitely not the ones that are stuck in their ways. They will most of the time be the ones that are still a little playful or are still a little curious. But you also meet the kind of choral singer that have been in the same choir for 40 years and are used to doing things a normal way or a certain way. And when I come up with all my silly exercises, and they really want to know the why before they even try the exercise. And I think it comes down to that they have just forgotten the playfulness and what it feels like to have fun in that kind of spontaneous way. And I try to fight that everywhere I go and just say, try, see what happens. It's not dangerous.
Yeah, that's a powerful word. Just try.
Mm,
Yeah, I think I can relate to what you said about the kids being, so lively and excited, which is great. But then, of course, without the structure, things slowly become chaos. I work in
yeah,
an art room at the middle school, so I experiment with a lot of that. The more routine, the more this is happens at this time, and here's a timer, the more creative stuff that seems to happen.
yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, also as artists, sometimes we need boundaries.
Hmm.
We need some kind of, yeah, I don't know the English word, but I think boundaries is probably like you need to write an SATB piece in the theme of crystal balls from the 18th century. Like, what are you gonna do? I think some some boundaries are fun because it really sparks the creativity.
Yeah, but then there's that war with structure. It's like getting over the hump of I have to when there is some sort of creative flexibility. Like you said, with the adults, they can kind of keep up with it when it's like, here's a little surprise, but we can go back to the routine after that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that works better with adults for sure.
Yeah, that flexible structure is something I put a lot of thought into for my
Mm,
network. We call it Pathfinder learning,
yeah,
essentially because people that are creative, they don't always have just one creative art that they focus on. maybe they're a writer, maybe they're also a graphic designer, maybe they're also a fashion stylist, maybe they're also a songwriter, different things like that. So um, it's a fun challenge to bring sort of a flexible structure to how do we learn together as pathfinders where we're not united by one particular thing.
Yeah,
So
so cool.
yeah, you mentioned some brief interest in other arts, which is kind of would be interesting to hear about. Like you mentioned journalism and philosophy. I wonder if there's anything else
Mm.
that you kind of dabbled in or, you know, like to work in as sort of a wild card in your creative process.
I think I have to talk about my other big passion here, which is escape rooms. And the reason why I love escape rooms is the creativity to come up with some of the good stories and some of the good sets. And I mean, some of the best rooms in the world are really theater sets of movie sets that they have spent years and years and years perfecting and making it a story. And then to come into a room and let the story play out is an art in itself. And I really think, I mean, when I say escape rooms, people are kind of thinking about it as the ones where you go into a room and you fiddle with some key locks and padlocks for an hour and then you go out again. But what is also escape rooms when it's really high level is there are very often actors in the room that you have to engage with and that drives the story. There are very often special effects to drive the story, sound, lights, um, you know, lots of different things that can have an effect on the story. And then just the cooperative element with your teammates and the psychological element that the designers have put in the game design to make everyone involved and to make everyone feel needed in a game environment. I think I draw many parallels to my choral work actually, because it's what is it that I find so fascinating about escape rooms is the exact same thing that I find fascinating with choral music and choral rehearsals, because I get into a flow state, complete flow state where I forget time, and it is when I am magically challenged in the very, very right way. And in choral music, we try to make all the singers challenged at the right amount all the time. So if it gets too difficult, people will give up. And if it comes too easy, people will get bored. So it's about always having that very, very fine lining of the perfect challenge where people are on the edge of their seats and still find value in always um, becoming better and better and improving and developing new skills. And it's the same in an escape room. It's complete flow state, and you always have to be challenged. And there are some parallels there that I think are still kind of unexplored, I would say.
That's awesome. Such a cool comparison. And that's like classic textbook Pathfinder learning because it's like it's all the same creative process when you reflect on all the different creative things you're into. It's like what unites them is the idea.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating. And I've never done an escape room, but you're making me interested in it.
You've never.
I never have.
You should definitely go.
Yeah, have you gone with like your board or your choir?
Um, some of them, yeah. So it's usually a game you play either two people or four people or six people. So very few have room for a whole choir or a whole board. Um, But yeah, definitely go. I mean, I tried my first escape room in 2020, and when I came out from that, I just knew I was going to be poor for the rest of my life because it was an amazing hour. And even though I didn't get out from the first room, I knew I had to play many more. And then a month went on, and then I played all the rooms in my area, and now I have to travel abroad internationally to find new rooms because I've played them all.
Wow. That must be such a fun job, like as an artist and a storyteller and a maybe theatrical type background to come together and create escape rooms. I've never thought of that as a creative art.
It is, and it's a storytelling art, and it's a game design art. And when you're done with the room and you get to talk to the game master, who is often the owner as well, and to just hear about what they've gone through to make this room is sometimes insane. And they just put all their efforts and money into this passion project. And honestly, it's impressive and it's really inspiring to see all these creative people when you go out and play good rooms.
That's so awesome. Um, Something else I want to ask you about is I'm sure that you've been doing all these kinds of cool music and beyond creative arts, but something made you decide to start broadcasting them on social media. So, can you tell me about that decision and that adjustment?
Yeah. Mm, I think it's twofold. So it all started less than a year ago when I asked my boards in both my choirs if I was allowed to record our warm-ups and put them online. And it was a result of a longer period where I had thought, I think some of my colleagues out there in the world would benefit from this inspiration, the things that happen in our rehearsal room. Why do we sit on this expertise that happens here? I think it could be an inspiration to somebody out there. Another thing is something I still struggle with is to you really put yourself out there. And the videos got way more attention than I thought initially. So now suddenly you're not just putting out a random video. I mean, what I mean is you're very conscious about thousands of people will see a video when you upload it. But I try to keep it as I did when I uploaded the first video. I'm only documenting what actually happens in the room. I'm not really doing any exercise to um, gather more views or go viral or anything. I'm just documenting what is happening in the room, and I'm sending it out to create value for colleagues. And of course, some people will misunderstand that, and I guess that's okay. Um, because there are definitely always haters and difficult people on social media. But it has been a long process for me to also become comfortable with putting myself out there. And I think especially in the Scandinavian context where it's I would say it's kind of frowned upon to really be um, thinking of yourself as someone who is better than others. And me putting out videos to inspire colleagues could definitely be interpreted as I think that I'm better than others,
Mm.
which I don't. Um, but I get that people who see my face all the time can be quite tired of it and can be yeah, but I mean, you can always just unfollow or unsubscribe or whatever.
Yeah.
So I really try to downplay that part uh, on me internally because it's not very productive. And I do get a lot of positive feedback as well, which is great. And for the people that enjoys the videos, I mean, it's for these people that I do it.
That's great. Yeah, it took me some coaching myself to get into the headspace of this is a generous act to post and share what my ideas are, what my teaching is, and with my face out there all the time and things like that.
Mm.
It brings up a lot, the visibility, but to really remember it's a generous act is, I think, what can keep a lot of people like us con- consistently keeping up.
Yeah. And also, it's an act of courage. And I think if you're, for everybody, it's a great exercise to have courage to stand up for what you think you're good at and to show the world. And I feel it's I would love for people in my field, in the choral field, to be sharing more of their expertise. I think there so much expertise right now that are not being shared. I would love to see rehearsals from some of the great conductors around the world, just unedited rehearsals to see what's going on, because I have no idea, because nobody ever shares anything, um, stuff like that. So if I can be an inspiration for more conductors to start putting out their work, I mean, we all benefit from that. And I have definitely been inspired by a lot of my fellow choral influences on Instagram, and I love that. And I think we all make each other better for it.
Yeah, when you really train your algorithm to cater to your nerdy needs, it definitely pays
Yes,
off.
definitely.
All right. Well, what about any projects that you have cooking at the moment? I know I think I saw on your page that you have some events coming up, like in the spring, and then also maybe next year.
Yeah. So the thing is, after this whole Instagram thing blew up, my calendar has been it's been filled up now with fun things. So in the season of 26, 27, I will be doing workshops, and I will be educating choral competitions, and I will conduct concerts in no less than 15 different countries, including a long tour around the US, starting out with a concert at Carnegie Hall in February. And that is very exciting. I mean, it's sort of a dream coming true, right? I also think that it's kind of riding on the wave sort of thing, that now is the hype from the social media, and I expect that hype to maybe go down in a couple of years. But I am trying to just to grasp everything I can and travel the world while I'm still young and energetic. And so specifically, in this spring, I have teamed up with another choral personality on social media, Tori London. And we are doing a come and sing day in London on the 2nd of May. So we've rented a church, a venue, and just said, let's see if people are coming to our event. Like, we're really just counting on Instagram to get the word out. And as far as I know, we're very close to sold out. So that's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, that is so exciting. I definitely saw like the whole thing up there on your page, and I just thought, wow, he's got a lot of energy. Like you said, you got a lot of energy for all this,
Yeah.
which is good.
And it's fun, yeah. And I'm coming out with my first book now on June 1st, which is a book of some of these exercises. I've picked out 30 of my favorite exercises. And it's going to be a physical book, but there's also going to be accompanying videos with it. So I've taken some of my young people from the choir here, and you finally get to see their faces and see the exercises work on them in these videos. So instead of just seeing my face, you will see all of them.
That's so cool. What a great idea. And you're writing it now?
I have written it. It's going back and forth now in review,
Cool.
making the final edits.
And have you ever done writing before? You said you thought about journalism, so maybe you've done some writing.
Yeah, not really. It's something that I really want to do more of. I think every time I start a new semester with my students, I'm saying I I've said this many times before. I've talked about this specific subject, and it's something that every conductor needs to know. But I haven't really found that resource yet that I can use. So maybe why don't I just create my own? But, so that's a thought I've had for the past years, and I will probably get to that in a couple of years, I imagine, to create my own conducting resource. But for the writing part, I mean, I'm a composer as well, and I do a lot of writing in music, and also some in text as poems and such, specifically to do choral music with it. But everything takes time, and for me, a creative project really takes a lot of inner peace as well.
Mhm.
So it's not something that I can just sit down and do for an hour and then I do something else. I kind of need to block out the whole day and just get up in the morning and say, I have nothing to do today. I'll compose a piece. And then that's how my brain works.
I like that. I understand that too when it comes to creating music. It's kind of like you dive in and
Yeah.
maybe you come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I noticed on your page when you talk about composing music that I think you had some screens up with a bunch of notation when you're composing.
Oh yeah.
So I'm curious about this, especially because I'm not really a classical musician by any means. Like I'm think of myself more as a singer-songwriter, play the guitar, play the piano, keyboard maybe is a better word for what I do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I just kind of dabble in instruments, create songs on different programs, but uh, I've always been a little bit um, like adversarial or something about reading music. And I thought it would be a fun thing to ask you about because you clearly embrace it and it's clearly um, maybe something you thought about, maybe something you haven't. I wonder if you enjoy it because of its utility, or maybe because of the tradition itself, or maybe because of it making it easier to collaborate with people once you write something. So I thought you could talk a little bit about why you choose to notate when you write your music.
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess I'm really just raised in that tradition, also with piano playing from a very early age. I was, I was reading scores from a very early age, and I think for me it has become this kind of tool that I use every day, and it's a tool with its limitations, obviously, and it's also a tool that when you look at a score, it's like you look at a recipe for food. It's not the it's a guide, but it's not the music. You do have to make a lot of choices when you sit with the score and when you read the notation. And not everything that the composer put into notation can be read from it, if you know what I mean. You also have to play it and to feel it and to live it and to really go into the core of the music. But for my music, I think it would be difficult to kind of share it with the world or share it with my choirs if I didn't notate it.
Mhm.
I mean, I could record it, and I do record it sometimes. And I talked to a guy who did a lot of arrangements recently, and he said, I'm just singing the song, and I'm opening up my music software where I record, and I'm just recording whatever I feel natural. And then when I think I've come up with something that sounds good, I send it off to this guy who can then notate what I've sung. So that's complete opposite, right? So you start with singing it and then you ask someone else to notate it. And I also like that approach really because that means that what is now on the page has really come to you naturally um, for your voice. Sometimes if you don't know what you're doing as a composer, and we see this with young composers a lot, um, they're so submerged in the notation software that says, okay, a soprano can sing a high A, so maybe we should let her sing that high A for 3 minutes. But that's not how the world works, right? But in the music software, they can easily do that. But in the real world, that would never work. So that's where you have to be really cautious, really careful, that the music software and the notation can lie to you about the real world.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, I feel like collaboration and like understanding come to mind as reasons why, it's a great tool. Um, and you said you only record things infrequently, not really much. It's more about like playing it from the software.
I mean, the guy I spoke to, he would record it by singing it into some kind of, I don't know, logic or whatever, and then hearing it back. And then when he was satisfied with the result that he heard, because that would be the arrangement, he would send the sound files to another guy who would then notate it in the music software. For myself, I don't necessarily record it myself. I will write a score, I will bring it to the choir. We will actually practice sight singing like 10 minutes a week
Oh,
just to get comfortable with scores in general and with key signatures and with all the theory stuff that they see all the time but doesn't necessarily know what means. So I will bring the score to them and we will kind of spell it out and go through it with the piano, and they will hear it and they will read it, and we will get some kind of um, product out of it or a result. And then often we will record it like in the rehearsal room, and they can go home and listen to it. And that's when they will really learn it, when they can hear the whole thing.
so it's written for their voices. It's not really written for the piano.
Exactly. It's
I,
written for the voices. Yeah.
so do you write accompaniment or it's kind of like a cappella?
It's mostly a cappella. Yeah. So I found out that accompaniment in the US is quite common with choral music and not so much here in Europe, or at least in Scandinavia. And I think the reason is that there are pianos everywhere in the US, in every concert hall, in every church. And here we cannot really be certain that there will be a piano in the venue that we're performing in. So it's just, for me, it's just easier to do a cappella music because that will work in every space, every venue.
I see. So just to look at it from a different angle, because I'm interested in your opinion, especially because I'm going to lead a very small choir soon for the first time. They
Mhm.
want to start with the national anthem. It's basically a theater group like of kids who put on productions, and they were invited
Yeah.
to go ahead and sing the national anthem. So now they're going to put together this small choir, maybe just a handful of kids. And
Wow.
it might be something for me to kind of experiment with between reading from music and maybe also not. And I'm wondering what your opinion
Yeah.
is about, do you think a choir can operate without sheet music? Like, do you think they could
Yeah, for
operate
sure.
by ear? And like, have you ever done that with, say, a song that everybody knows, like the national anthem, or some experience that you could mention?
For sure. Of course, that scores are not a necessity at all. We have so many projects here locally where people can come in and sing without any knowledge about music notation or anything. sometimes they will see a text on the big screen, and then they will be taught the things by route. So just by ear, everything. Of course, what music notation does is that it saves a lot of time if people are able to read it. But of course, they then have to be able to read it, or else it's not a time saver. So for your kids, do you want to sing it like in unison or in multiple parts?
I think it's pretty experimental at this point, so we might try both. I think it might just be one student that sings per event, but if we could do something together, something creative, I think that they would be interested in any suggestions.
Nice. I mean, the fun thing about learning to read scores is that you get this piece of paper and you don't know what to do about it. And then you sing something that you probably know before, and then you get to see the system and feel the system in your voice. Okay, my voice goes up so the notes go up, and when voice goes down, notes go down. And suddenly you get this kind of connection between what's actually on the page and your own voice. And the more you do that, the better you become. And you don't necessarily have to know every single little musical theoretical detail about the score. You also get to see, okay, this is stepwise. This is how it feels to sing stepwise. Okay, there's a big leap. And then at some point, maybe, okay, this is a fifth. This is how a fifth sounds. And then you just gradually learn more and more stuff to to basically save time and be able to read what's on the page.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. It reminds me of when I used to record and I would be singing. I wouldn't have notation, but I would want to pick out which note needed to go which way or needed to be stronger, and I would sort of make dots. It almost looked like some kind of braille or something. I would make dots,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
have little things going up, little things going down, and yeah, it's just giving me ideas about maybe being experimental with that real utility behind it and something simple that's not overly intellectual, especially for the really young kids, to get
Mm,
in tune with maybe the numbers even associated with like a moving dot, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so they can see
yes.
which one is which interval. And yeah, just especially if we can't find sheet music very easily. I know sometimes it's not the easiest thing to come across, but
Yeah.
do you have do you have like favorite places to get sheet music yourself?
Um, I like the free sheet music, but that's old music, right? So it has to be the composer has to be dead for 70 years. There are a lot of resources online. I would say JV Pepper is probably the place to go and look for music. Um, if you want contemporary music, both classical and pop and jazz and all all that kind of stuff. Um, but mostly just Google. Google is your friend if you want to find something. And maybe some publishers are, during my time as a co-conductor, I've found some publishing houses that I really like, that have like this certain style of, they take on composers that I like generally. So I follow those publishing houses and see what they publish of new stuff, and keep myself oriented. So
Cool. Good tricks of the trade to have.
yeah,
All right, so getting near the end here, I would like to introduce you a little bit to some things we do in Pathfinder learning. So,
yes,
we have the last Saturday of every month is our different meetings, whether it's with Pathfinders, we call it Pathfinder parties, and with mentors, we call it a mentor workshop, working on say prompts mostly with the mentors and sharing prompts, kind of like the reels that you put out. And those are really
yeah,
inspiring to people that are creating their own prompts and seeing what is something that not only we can prompt someone to do in this moment, like very simply, but also that we can do it over the computer, that we don't need to be there in person. That's a real art.
Yes.
So, the things we do when we get together, we talk about creativity and goals and wins, kind of like we've been talking about a lot about different projects and things like that. One thing I like to do with the Pathfinders is kind of an impromptu show and tell. So, I want to kind of throw that for this moment. If there's anything around you that you feel like is worth picking up and it might tell a story, something you might want to show, I think that, you know, it's another one of those things that's thought about as being for kids, but I think it brings adults back into that creative, playful space to kind of show and tell about something they have.
I know what to show you.
Awesome.
I just bought a thing that I'm looking forward to experimenting with.
Ooh.
It's a teleprompter, the thing that they use in the news when they can look directly into the camera and read the news, basically, and it still looks like they're looking in the camera, even though they're reading, right? So this is a mini version of that. So there's a screen here that will show text, and then it will be reflected up, and then I can put a camera in here. So this was an idea that I've had for a long time, that I wanted to get into a bit of live streaming and to do some Q&A and to do some choral related content for other social media platforms like YouTube, that would maybe not be short form content but more long form content. So I've now tried to invest in some gear that I'm looking forward to exploring a little bit more, and I'm really excited about this teleprompter because it makes life so much easier when you're trying to rehearse or learn many lines. You can basically plug it into the teleprompter and then just have a go at it.
That's cool. Yeah, fun little tech toy to play with.
Yes.
Cool. So, some other things that we do, we check in about creativity, obviously, but we also like to check in about wellness. And if there's anything you want to share about, say, a win or a goal for your wellness that you have, I think the win that you mentioned right off the bat was feeling like certain demands of trying to be better at music when you were younger kind of took a toll on your mental health, and you found a more healthy way to relate to your art and your instrument. And I think that's a big part of why we talk about this. So,
Yes.
whether there's a goal or a win that comes to mind, emotional or physical.
I slept for 10 hours yesterday, which has been a long time coming. I've invested in this little, I'm a huge tech nerd. Um, I've invested in this little thing called a Whoop, which is a sleep tracker.
Oh,
And so it tracks heart rate and sleep rhythms and sleep stages, and it gives me a sleep score every morning when I wake up. And today it was 98%, which is a new high score for me because I slept so well.
no,
And it's something that I really try to be better at, is sleep, also just to keep energies high and keep productivity high. I think sleep is so important. So for my wellness, I am going into the journey of becoming a better sleeper.
that's great. Very foundational.
Yes.
Awesome. And I do always like to say that the foundation of creativity is food, just because people are so not only nourished by food, but they're so stimulated creatively by culinary art and, different quality choices. And I wonder if there's anything you'd like to share about favorite meals, maybe something that you like to cook, something that you've always wanted to try.
So I'm always looking forward to Mondays because that's when I have my youth choir. And they rehearse down by the cathedral in the city. And on my way there on my bike, I will pass through this very, very lovely small greenery shop, like where you can buy vegetables and salads and so on. And they have the most delicious salad of all time. And it's very inexpensive as well. So that's my meal every Monday, and I'm looking forward to it every Monday to just have a very big, nourishing salad from that place. That's um, that's something I need more of.
Excellent fuel, especially when it can be just delicious, makes it even more
Yeah,
powerful energy wise.
delicious, cheap, vegetarian, everything's good.
Checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Cool. And another fun prompt that I like to do is song roulette. So this is a new one that I'm trying out. And it's basically, I think I saw that on your page you said that you like a lot of different styles of music, maybe not just the traditional choir style music. Um, what would you say, like pop, rock, blues, different things like that?
Definitely pop. Oh, quite a lot of electronic music as well.
Okay, cool. So what I find is that working with students in lessons, sometimes the hardest part, it's just like going to karaoke and trying to decide what you want to sing. It's like sometimes you just can't, off the top of your head, come up with the song. And so song roulette's kind of a brainstorm session between more than one person to sort of keep throwing out songs until there's one that you both like. And that would be, say, the one
Right,
that you study or perform or try for the day. So
right.
is there any one that you might throw out there and we can throw some back and forth?
I would go Beyonce, Halo.
I think I know that one. Do you know Beyonce when she does Etta James?
No.
She does At Last, and she performed it in a movie. Really
Hmm.
amazing. See, what about do you like Megan Trainor?
Yes.
What's one by her that you like?
Um, what's the big hit? The one that we all heard so much a couple of years ago.
All about that bass?
No, the other one.
The other one? Hmm.
Made You Look.
Oh yeah, okay. I remember that one. Um, what about Taylor Swift?
I'm not really a Swiftie, I'm sad to say.
Let's see. Think about some other pop one. What about the Beatles?
Definitely the Beatles.
What Beatles?
Yeah. I'd go Hey Jude.
Love Hey Jude. I think that's our roulette right there.
Nice.
I like to do that one at music workshops because it's such a great sing along.
Yeah, it really is. The na 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 part really gets people going.
Yeah, it does. So, the only last things I'd like to ask you as we close is kind of an idea about bucket list dreams. So, I know that you've already done so much and you've been offered so many things now that are feeling like dreams to fulfill. And it's probably a great time that while you're in the middle of all that to kind of think about the question, are there any kind of bucket list dreams that you would like to see, maybe over the next 5 years, something you'd like to pursue that hasn't come up yet?
I definitely want to win a Grammy at some point.
Ooh, ambitious. Like a choral Grammy?
A choral Grammy.
Oh,
It's a little bit down the line, probably not 5 years, but I got time. I still have the time.
you're definitely on your way. I think you know what you're doing to get there. And
Yeah,
what,
that's definitely the big dream.
that's excellent. So I think there's always two sides of the coin. Like when it comes to the bucket list question, there's the dream, the like amazing thing, the shiny
Mm,
object, and then there's the bucket list mission. Like
yeah.
I know you serve a lot of people, youth and adults. Seems like you work with a lot of different kinds of people, and whether it's choir or whether it's escape rooms, like whatever it might be that is the thread in your creative process, is there anything that you can think about a certain demographic that you would want to give back to as like a bucket list mission? Some
Mm.
certain person you want to help to see some kind of heart of creativity or wellness?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely the young people. Um, the people in my youth choir is that kind of demographic is something that really fuels my energy. That I could just spend every day with them and just have the best time. And I think on a more personal bucket list, it would probably be to continuously create an environment that is sustainable to help more young people sing here locally in my area. So right now I'm going into a couple of years where I travel a lot, but I think what I really want to do is actually develop the choral life here where I am and help that grow bigger and better for the years to come.
Excellent. Yeah, just bringing a singing culture to your area.
Yes, making that the best that it can be.
And does anything come to mind as a vision for what that looks like beyond what you've already accomplished?
Yeah, I mean, for the youth choir right now, we're just this one youth choir, but it's about 40 members. But last time we auditioned singers, we had like 30 applicants. And one semester before that, we also had 30 applicants. So we have way too many applicants in relation to how many we can take in, which means there could obviously be more than one youth choir.
Hmm.
So, I mean, just expanding would be number one. Number two would probably be to have some kind of building, like the physical surroundings that could house an organization like that with multiple choirs and with rehearsal maybe more than once a week. And maybe there could be a leg that would be fostering new conductors and a leg that could be fostering new composers and maybe also solo singers. Maybe there could be a leg that was more detailed around theater or performance art. I mean, there could be many different ways to go in this organization.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing your vision with us. That's so excellent. And welcome to the Pathfinder Learning community. Thanks for making time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.